Well, that would be a conversation we'd have to have upstairs, obviously, because you're going to need to fill it. So, the first place you look is, do we have anybody internally that's ready to move up to the number one spot? Secondly, is there anybody in Providence then could fill in, if someone else is moving up? So those are questions we'd have to look at. So no, I really haven't got that far along with it. Until Patrice makes a decision, it's not something we're, right on top of now, but I imagine that we'll have to have that conversation just to be ahead of things. So we're all hoping he comes back. I'm going to be an optimist in this one. And if not, we've seen it over the years. We've lost a few guys from our core, and we've had to sort of forge ahead, right? And I think he's done a great job, Patrice, building the next layer of leadership for us. I will say that if that's the case. Marshy I'll put in Bergie's category because they, the similar ages, but the Pasternaks, the Carlos, and the McAvoys, I've seen a lot of growth in their, leadership skills, how they conduct themselves, and that's a credit to Patrice. And I'll put Brad in there because he's learned from him as well, and from more recently Z and Kretsch as well.
Reached out to him about that at all? Like, would you reach out to him as he's sort of making this decision? That's something
we talked yesterday. I met with every player, and some caught up this morning because there was a lot about. I did not get too far into that, Hags. There's a little bit about the state of the team, the playoff series, thoughts on different things that took place. He needs his space. We all respect that. That's just the way it is. And when he's ready to have a conversation, then I'm sure he'll reach out, to whoever he needs to. But right now, I think he needs the time to decompress. It's a big decision. It's a big decision, and he needs to take all the time he needs.
Especially with the level of play that he's still at, right?
Well, that to me is one factor that always comes into it. Where are you on the ice, and do you feel like your legacy is getting diminished if you stay too long, right? That's sometimes. I didn't go through this, so I'm just guessing what those players, and some of them I've talked to. Yeah. Where is your fit with the team? How, and then there's the part away from hockey. What's most important to you, and how do you balance that? So there's always a bunch of different things. But specific to your question, no, his level of play is still a number one centerman in this league. We saw it this year, up for the Selke, and in my estimation, should win it. No disrespect to any other nominees, but I think it's, he's had another great year. We'll see how that turns out.
Just mentioned the Selke, and we don't just assume he's going to be great defensively every year, and he is, but statistically, this might have been his best defensive season yet. Are there things you saw him do even better this year, improve even over past seasons?
I would say there's a lot of new categories. The nerds have come up with some new ones, and he keeps excelling at all of them. So good for him. Apologize again. It's just anyway. Every year there seems to be more metrics to be judged by, right? And that's great that he continues to excel in all of them. It's what he is. He's a great defensive player. I don't eye test or stats test, right? I think he passes them all. The award has been a little more offense has been built in, I think, over time, like a lot of awards, and I think he's kept pace with that as well. So, to me, he's, like I said, still on top of all those things.
I know the Bergeron question is kind of, it's got you in a little bit of a holding pattern, but how do you move the ball forward again and get it back over that hump and get back towards being a Stanley Cup contender?
Well, I thought we were this year. We had a start that was inconsistent, not to our standards. There's different reasons for that. We added 5 players. You could add Sway into the mix a little bit of 6, and then 3 at the deadline last year. Don't forget those guys came in. You're just getting them ready to play for the playoffs. So, and then Lindholm at the deadline. So you got almost a full half a roster turnover. So it took a while to get the pieces in place. And I give the players a lot of credit for finding their way in the second half. I think we had to move some pieces around, and I was proud of the way the guys played. We were on top of our game, beating good hockey clubs down the stretch, winning our share of games against good clubs that maybe weren't able to do earlier in the year. That's growth in the team. And then the playoffs coming. We're playing one of the best teams in National Hockey. I think, we can't overlook that this team was a top team all year. They didn't spike. They had one little downshift, I think, towards the end of the year. Very consistent, and they're good for a reason. They've grown together as a group. We saw it playing against them earlier. So like I said, it come down to a game 7 where, they make a few more plays than we do. We bounce back, down 2-0. We got ourselves back. There's a lot of positives, I think, Steve, that happened with this team to say we weren't a contender. I think, yeah, if you don't get out of the first round, that's not what we want. We want to win a Stanley Cup. That's what we're here for. And as the series went on, I think our guys started believing that, this is a team we can beat. We just didn't get it done in game 7. And we felt that a lot of times over the years, if you get through that first round, sometimes it can give you confidence going forward. And, sometimes you're just up against a better team at times too. So I just felt it would have been good for our group because we seemed to get confidence from success as the year, like the second half. Sometimes took a while, wasn't instant. And I think that had a lot to do with some new people that maybe hadn't won at other places, or just that's the makeup of our group. So, but we weren't able to do it. We got through game 6, gave us some life for game 7, and unfortunately not quite good enough.
Pretty excited about what the back end is going to look like moving forward. Full seasons with Lindholm and McAvoy and having all the pieces falling in place.
Well, I am. It's an under 30 group for the most. Maybe Lindy's right there, but in general, very young. McAvoy's already an elite player at his age, only going to get better. Lindholm going to get more comfortable, playing with Charlie or whoever it is, and just playing with us. Brandon's going to get better every year. Grizz is still a young guy. He's got some medical issues to take care of, but so in general, that core group, and then some guys underneath. I saw Forbert and Clifton's game really grow. They lived up to what they needed to be in terms of a third pair. Zaboral coming back is an interesting one because he was starting to play some good hockey at an age where he was more comfortable. So there's a lot of good there in terms of youth. Just got to get it done right when you get out there. And I'll translate that to the goaltending. We're excited about Swayman and Ullmark. We went into the year last year. We didn't know a lot about how they'd be and with the Tuukka situation. And it's tough to throw a guy that's never played in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, have to be, a guy that it's just a positional thing that has to be important. So good for him. I think they had a lot of growth, Jeremy, this year, especially in the playoffs. Get some of that under, his belt. We were hoping maybe Tuukka going into the year would be healthy and see where he was in the playoffs. Didn't work out that way. But Jeremy and Linus with a great second half. So there's, from the blue line back, there's a lot of positives in terms of young guys that have room to grow. So that whole part of our game should be a real positive going forward. And we're a team that has been known to be hard to play against. Team defense, all those things should still be there. It's just building the offensive part of our games that we couldn't quite break through in this series specifically.
Did you have an exit meeting with Jake yet? And if so, what was the conversation there?
Yeah, the conversation was, I thought, big picture, we all came together and have a real positive finish for Jake. The player, the teammates, the organization, the staff, we all, made it work. But he's the player. He does the work, the most work. And I congratulate on a great finish, a new contract. We didn't get too specific on where it goes from here, Matt, because I think that's between him and his representative and Donnie. Like I said, I thought he did a great job in the circumstance, did as much for that line as they did for him. It was a real good situation. Came to play hard every night. Like I said, I was proud of the way he played, and he should be too. Where it goes from here, again, it'd be speculation on my part, but it was a good finish.
When you talk to guys, kind of what were the takeaways from the series now that it's been like a couple of days?
The takeaway at the end of the day was timely finishing for us up there. We didn't generate as much offense up there. We were able to generate a little more at home. Some of that is we got a lead, so they open up a little bit. So some of that is finishing, and that's hard to just pinpoint one, say, well, you should have scored here. And you know what I mean? Like we have to find a way to generate offense more consistently, especially against those teams. They are saying the same thing right now, like when they were in our building. How do we generate more offense consistently? You got the best defensive team in numbers-wise, Carolina. We're right up there. I think we're third or fourth. So it was going to be not a lot of room out there no matter what, both ways. So we knew that. At the end of the day, we didn't do quite good enough job finishing the chances we did get or creating a few more along the way. And I think that's what it came down to up there, why we couldn't get a game up there. So that's a credit to Carolina playing to their strength. And I thought we played to our strength a lot of nights too in terms of defense. We just had a couple games where we got away early on. I think in this series, the game 1 and 2 got away from us in certain pockets. We didn't get back to our game quick enough. They took advantage of it. I think we did that to them up here, and that's what it came down to. To really, once either team got the lead, like as the game went on, I'm not saying you can't come back from a goal, but in the third period, there were no comebacks. And that's because these teams know how to play. We know how to close out games. We learned that as the season went on. Carolina did it all year. It wasn't like some of the other series where these are two teams that know how to finish games, close out games, play winning hockey. So that was the important part up there. We needed to have one of those games where we got the lead so we could play to our strength and not them playing to their strength. And that's, to me, what happened, we weren't able to do.
On the finishing, it's a couple years in a row you guys have been at the bottom of the league in shooting percentage. Is that just a matter of you guys have finishing talent or you don't, or are there ways to coach that up, develop that?
Well, the shooting percentage can be, if we led the league, I think, on shots on goal, so we're playing off the shot a little more than most. So shooting percentage can get skewed because of that. We're playing for a rebound so we can recover the puck first. I know Bergeron does that as well as anybody. Cause line when they're going. We're not one of those teams that's looking for. I think the Rangers are more of that. Okay, they're looking for that play that's a high percentage, and that's certainly open to discussion. Should we be more of that team? Hang on to puck, look for that really good chance instead of sort of playing and putting pressure on a team over and over and getting some second and third chances. So that's a little bit of philosophy that we'd have to discuss for the shooting percentage. To me, it's more about are we generating enough good opportunities? How many high danger chances, all those metrics we talked about earlier, are you expected goals? They do matter in some regards of what are you generating over a long picture. And we didn't do well enough with that against Carolina. Like I said, some of that's a credit to them, top defensive team. Some of that was on us to be able to break down some of their man-to-man coverage a little bit better. So I would say that is more important in our evaluation going forward than necessarily a shooting percentage number, because I think, like I said, it can be skewed. Now, some guys will have off years from year to year. Some guys will be better. You usually regress back to the mean or whatever that, or to the average of what you're typically used to. Some years that happens, and some years you get away with being a little bit better. Some years you're underwater with it.
Any different challenges, more challenges here as far as managing players, playing time, all that stuff? It seems like there was a couple guys, Lee, Riley, that were vocal about not being happy sitting. Stuff.
Absolutely, and that's just part of the job responsibility. I think every coach goes through that. If you got players that are always maybe content, then maybe you have some of the wrong players too. You want guys that want to be in position. Trust me, there's a few other players that talk to me, maybe weren't as vocal, but hey, I'd like to, play a little more. How can I earn your trust? How can I get more minutes? And I have no issue with that. I try to get them to say, hey, we're going to do what's best for the crest first all the time. But yeah, okay, I can respect that. Here's where you can build in some minutes. So specific to your question, Bleed, I think Anton's just been here a long time. He's been kind of a depth player, and he just wants to play hockey. I can respect that. I got to make the decisions. We put Foligno and Frederick kind of in the spots he may be in, or Lazar on the right. And live with it. That's it. We thought they gave us the best chance to win, and right or wrong. So, like I said, I've had Anton from back to Providence, so I like his energy. We just went with different players, and I can, like I said, respect his request. With Mike Riley, that one we've kind of painted a picture of what we want our decor to look like. His competition was Grizz and then Lindholm when he came in. Forbert's a different animal. To go to the right side with Clifton, didn't get enough looks. Thought Clifton was doing a good job, and that's how that one played out. So again, I can respect the player wanting more. We have to do what's right for the team, and our decisions are what they are. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, and that's what we did.
Frederick is the guy that when he's going, has some attributes that could really help, a third line. It seemed, in talking with him yesterday, he struggled maybe with, the line, the decision making, and I'm curious what your focus for him would be this season.
Sorry, what's the line decision like?
The line of being an agitator, versus, overstepping the line, playing too aggressively. Obviously, there were some penalties there, but just in general, kind of your message to him as he tries to kind of develop himself and be ready to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, the message to him is, so for Freddie in particular, you have more than one attribute. You're not just an agitator, not just a physical presence, not just a bigger body. Like, you have to play hockey most of the time, contribute as a third-line guy. That means getting pucks off the wall. That means contributing offensively. How do you do that? Go to the net. I don't think he uses his shot enough. We've tried to get Freddie to do that more, have confidence in it. I think he wants to defer to the guys that are older on his line, so he has to learn that. No different than any young guy. But there's times in a game that you know, if there's a big hit that we can respond right away. And I think Freddie's still going through that learning curve. And some guys just get it automatically and answer right away. And other times it's, hey, discipline, take a number, and make sure we're hard on their skill. That's what we've always talked about. Not like, to me, it's if there's a chance to be physical against their skill, that usually gets their attention very quickly, more than chasing a guy around the ice. So let's try to respond that way. Unless you think it's a dirty hit and you got to go right away, that's fine if that's your call. That's a, you know, something that happens, split-second decision on the ice, and that's where Freddie is still sort of sorting through it. I think the expectations for Freddie, you know, because he had that big fight when he first got here, okay, maybe that's going to be his game. Yeah, if that's part of it, fine. We want him to be a hockey player. We're trying to coach that into him. And part of being a good hockey player for him with his size is, yeah, have some abrasiveness. And he's still sorting through when to use that. But, you know, we want him to contribute as a solid third left line power forward type of guy. When to make plays and when to use your shot. Again, sometimes Freddie being a centerman before in college, they make a few more plays. That might not be there on the wing. So all those points are being messaged to him, and as a young guy, it takes time sometimes to find his way. Some injuries too, Matt, derailed him at different times in his career when he got up and running, so now he has to start over a little bit. I think that's worked against Freddie. I think one of the important things for him, stay healthy for longer stretches so that you can get in that rhythm of exactly what's required, and hopefully that, you know, next year he's able to do that.
McAvoy has a really good sense of, you know, the timing there with a big hit going, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows. Okay. And some of it is, hey, they just hit one of our guys, and different guys respond. Like some guys will go like, I'm going to rip his head off. And that's, you know, you can't, you know what I mean? Like that's great, but no. And Charlie's more, all right, you want to hit our guy? I'm coming. And he just, like I said, that's a reactionary thing that he just has. It's a natural thing for him. And he does a great job with it.
What do you think of Stadnika's year? Is there anything positive you can take from this? Because it seems to be somewhat of a step back.
Yeah, I think there's expectations there for the player, putting in the time to put on some weight. Now, how does he use that weight? Does it affect his pace? I thought Jack's time here, he had a good training camp. Training camp, you have to be careful because you're playing against different makeups of team. You know, it's not a true NHL, but it's as close as you're going to get at that time of the year to evaluating a player. He did a good job, and we had some other ideas about how our lineup would look, and then it's a matter of, okay, when it's your turn, then come up and make sure you take advantage of it. And that's the part I'm not down there if you use that time wisely, because, you know, once he got up, we didn't get quite the offensive production we want. Some of that is on the situation. Hey, you play 2-3 games, you're back. But sometimes that's the hand you're dealt for your opportunity. Other times you get a long stretch of time. So I think Jack had a really good first year in Providence. What really worked against Jack after that to grow that year was the COVID year. You're not playing much. You're with us as an extra. The American League shut down. I think his opportunity to grow at those prime years when he's 22, 23, were taken away from him a little bit because of circumstance. And so now he's not starting over, but it's almost like he's lost the momentum of that. So we'll see where it is. Again, going back to your original question, you know, if Bergie decides to retire, who's going to fill in? Is Jack one of those guys that can help us in one of the spots? You know, we're not going to sit here and say Jack's going in as your number one center, but can he go in and some other guys move up? And that'll be a conversation we'll have to have. And I think the people that saw him more this year will probably have a better opinion on that.
In terms of generating more 5-on-5 offense, how did like a clear Lindholm maybe help lead more shots from the blue line, more what and like that thing featuring?
Well, he's going to help. We saw it in short sample size, just breakouts. Some of the best offensive chances come from a good breakout where you're trapping two. That's where your rush game comes from, right? If you break out clean and trap some guys or break up a play because he's good at anticipating, you're going to get some rush offense. So that's one thing he did bring and will bring going forward. It's a big part of his game. Offensive blue line, he likes to be active in there. So guys will have to, you know, read off. Charlie likes to be active, so they'll have to find that common ground. But I think they can create a lot more, and they will be given the freedom to do that because they're good, you know, that they just naturally do it well. Other guys have to be a little more structured up there, and there has to be a little more predictability. And whereas with him, I think he can be in movement a little more because he can A, recover, and B, because he has a good nose for hockey IQ for when to dive in. So yes, I think offense, when you think of offense, you always automatically go to the forward group, and yes, they have to finish better and when they get inside, but offense in general, I think, is a 5-man operation now, and defensemen that can bring that certainly make it easier for the forwards to get a few cleaner looks, and he will definitely be an asset there.
Outside of the Bergeron anything just as a coach you look at on this team after, having A to Z this year and say, we could use more of this, or, that this is an area where we need some improvement?
Well, I think to just be like Tampa wins the cup last year, they replace, so they're the best team. Put the teams on the bottom, they're looking at. So yes, we're always going to look at trying to get better, right? That's the generic statement. For us in particular, yeah, we need to find ways to generate more offense. Is the personnel in place to do that, and we're just playing the wrong way? Do we sacrifice defense, what we're very good at, to generate some offense? I mean, we have to consider that. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Are there some players that can give us more? There always is. I thought we got a lot out of this group, Hags, especially the second half, got them to play, and the offensive numbers showed that. So we got to figure out, okay, how do we get them to do that in the playoffs as well? So that's a challenge, for the staff as well as the player himself, to know that the game shrinks a little bit, the ice available. So building in those cycled sort of scoring chances versus rush chances, they have to keep building. We've talked to, Pasta's been very good at that we've talked to Taylor Hall about that, because a big part of his game is his speed down the wing, and how can we use that speed in different areas and separation. So we had those conversations and I think hopefully over time, the Coyle line when they're most effective is playoff style hockey. So that's an area that, we didn't get much, and who knows, the next series, if you advance, they might get hot. We've seen that over the years where a line finds its game all of a sudden. So that'll be a conversation with them as well, and that's where, Freddie can help them if he's finishing Smitty. And then we'll talk about it upstairs with personnel. Are there better options? Of course, we'll have to look at that. What do we have internally? I know that, we have some young players. I think it's good for a team to incorporate young guys if you can every year, if there's room. It just brings some energy to the room. It brings a young kid in hasn't been around, so there's that youthful enthusiasm. We saw that with Swayman a little bit. Over years past, we brought in McAvoy. They all came through. Pasta and Zaboro was starting to be a bit of that. And I think Lowe's on until he got picked up. And I think it helps your group. So we have to look at that as well. Who's ready? Can't force them in, but who's ready? And those will be some questions that, watching our guys down in Providence, or the guys we've just signed. Lysel's obviously in that group. He's played. See where Beecher's at. He came out of college now as a pro, and see if those guys are a good fit for us. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I think you're always looking to improve. Who are the guys? Is it internal or external? I think those are questions we have to have discussions about.
Is that something that you kind of identified during the regular season, or that you kind of find new combinations and new lines, or was it something that stood out to you once you got to the postseason?
Well, generating offense, I think, came from different chemistry in the second half. We saw a little bit of how Pasta's influence on the second. Is that what you're sort of?
What did you identify that, maybe that might be something we can improve? Was that something that you looked at during the regular season? Maybe probably
Well, we looked at it last year after the Islanders, that we need to generate more cycle playoff style offense and build it into the year. Now all of a sudden you're in the middle of the year and guys are scoring on the rush. It's scoring, right? You're winning. So you're going to say, well, we still want that, but understand if it's not there, how about less forcing of plays against teams that's not there, and play behind them and build that. And players have ways they want to play, right? So it's not just a matter of, okay, coach told me I better. It's repetition, it's habits, having success from that. And that's where I thought that line was starting to get better, the second line at generating some of that. Coyle's line, when they're on, unbelievable at it, at second chances and being hard to play against. So I thought we had turned the corner second half with some of that, and the test always comes in the playoffs. We just happened to run up against a team that was rock solid defensively. So were we that far off from it? Is it all on us, or do we give the appropriate amount of credit to the team that we lost to? That was a very good hockey team and knows how to shut teams down. I think it's a little bit of both.
All you mentioned, or throughout the season, you're just making so many adjustments to try to get him going. That was part of it. Do you feel like over the last while that you've seen him, he made enough adjustments to work with the pieces that you were trying to put him with, and he kind of changed his game to come?
I do. Taylor cares. He's now been in a winning environment, and I'm not going to go too far back in our culture for a year and a half now. And I just talking to him yesterday, I think he appreciates everything the leadership does and how things are run in terms of being what it takes to play winning hockey. So Taylor is buying in to how the team has success. How to change your individual games from playing the same way for a long time. Like I said, I think it takes a little bit of repetition. It takes line mates that encourage you to play that way and still play to your strength, and that is speed and attack the blue line. He made some really good plays on the rush, against Carolina. He was one guy that had the ability to do a little bit of that, so we'd never want to take that away, but when it's not there, buying in and understanding playoff hockey. And I think that's just experience over the years, going through it. Went through it against the Islanders, went through it now, and hopefully it's a little easier sell for him next year where he builds it in from the regular season in. And that's the challenge for Taylor and the ask of him in that line. And that's just coaching there. You got to sort of get him to understand that, and then it's on the player to recognize that that's playoff hockey. And maybe the next series opens up a little more, and some of that. That's why I think you see in playoffs yeah, your best players typically they're there, but some lines will get going all of a sudden because it's just more favorable for them. And that's what I said. That's where we needed a line that was favorable to them to get a little puck luck around the net and get some stuff going. And it didn't happen as much. But so that's where we're at with Taylor. And like I said, I like his progress. He had a good year for us. Understands his role and understands he's not going to be a 21-minute guy like maybe he was in Jersey or Edmonton. But to give us a solid, whatever it is, 16 or 17 or 15 maybe some nights, because when our fourth line's kind of going, we try to balance it as much as possible. And power play, I thought he did a real good job being the net front guy a lot of nights. We made a bit of a switch late. Thought Jake, whatever, but either way, he's still on at the second unit. And so there was some good there, and that maybe builds into his 5-on-5 game, being around the front of the net, greasy goals. We talked about that. That was part of the reason for doing it. So you learn how to function in traffic and, in the blue paint area. And like I said, I like Taylor's year. I think he wants to play the right way every night, and so that's a positive going forward for sure.
You mentioned Brandon Carlo's growth as a leader earlier. What did you think of his game on the ice this season? Do you feel it's still next level for him to get to?
Brandon? Yeah, we talked about confidence with the puck play. I think there's obviously when you take some hits and leave a series up against the boards, I understand that it takes a while to play through some of that. I just think some more of the open ice plays he can, we're okay with him if he sees a play that there's a little more risk to make it into the middle of the ice. Just balance your risk reward, and I think for him, he doesn't want to make those mistakes. So it'll be for him to getting pushing him through that sort of threshold of if you every once in a while it might not work out, but those are easier breakouts to get the forwards going. That's the one area we've tried to talk to him about. Look at scanning the whole ice, confidence with the puck on your stick, and pass ready. I think at the ozone blue line he'll defer to safety first. As opposed to maybe risking a shot getting blocked. That's fine. I think he had 5 or 6 goals, and when he does get a shot through, it's usually got some heaviness to it. And if he feels it's better to go back behind the net, then the guys playing with him will recognize that, and we'll just start our cycle over. So, but we need to with Brandon for sure. I think there's more to give there offensively, and hopefully another year in the league of comfort level will make him more inclined to want to try a few more of those plays.